Hey everybody, welcome to Positive Conversations with David and Donna. I'm David.
And I'm Donna.
This is the weekly podcast where we talk about all things positive in your life, and we have a lot to say this week. Might go, who knows, this might be 30 minutes instead of 20 minutes. I know we try to keep it.
Let's just
We
stick
try to
for a
keep it.
time.
I think we should. You're right.
I've learned how to, stretch and, reduce
Right.
as needed, so.
It's just, I probably have less to say than I think I do, because I can save a lot of it for creative conversations.
Okay, which we will do next.
So that's what I would do.
Right.
But I'm gonna let you go ahead and
Well, I'm so
tell
intrigued.
the world what you're so excited about.
I'm intrigued because David knows, huge LSU fan this season. I have to be honest, I'm not always a huge LSU football fan. I did attend LSU, and I'm just in general not a sports person. But this season was our Cinderella season. Everything fell in place, the perfect storm, everything you could possibly say. And we had a perfect season, and we had a Heisman Trophy winner, and we won the national championship last night.
It could not be better.
It is as good as it can get, and very few people have achieved what Joe Burrow has achieved. And I have a poster of Joe Burrow hanging in my closet. It's in my closet because I don't really know where else to hang it, but my daughter came home from an LSU event and said, "Hey, I have a Joe Burrow poster. Do you want it?" And I was like, "Yes! Yes, I do!" And then I'm like, where am I going to put this? I mean, I can't just hang it in my bedroom, So in the office closet.
You could put it on your ceiling.
I could do that.
Ew.
But anyway, so
I don't think your husband would appreciate that.
Probably not so much. But anyway, so I can open the door to my closet and send my positive energy, having to do, of course, with positive conversations, to Joe every time I think about how I'm just so proud of what he was able to achieve, what he helped our team achieve. Just, I feel, if you didn't know, I wrote a tribute to Joe on our blog, and I also posted it on my social media. What happened with that is that I get inspired occasionally. I try to always stay very open to my source, to my angels, to my guidance, whatever you want to call it. And the day after Joe Burrow won the Heisman, he just stayed with me all day. And I'm like, I've got to write about this. I don't know what I need to say, but I felt the tug all day long. And my younger sister, was in town visiting, and we went out to eat, and we talked about how he had mentioned in his acceptance speech that he was from a poor area in Ohio, and that day just thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars were donated because he mentioned it. And that just fueled my fire that I needed to say something about how I felt about this amazing person. So I wrote something to him, and I addressed it to him like a letter, like, "Dear Joe Burrow," and I talked to him about how much I admired everything about him. And so watching him play, and the game that he himself describes as something he's always wanted since he was 5, was just so exciting for me, for him. I was just so excited to watch this person who a lot of people have called cocky. And I watched lots and lots of interviews with him because I'm just fascinated by him now. And I don't see cocky at all. What I see in him is what I try to be, which is someone who is confident in what they want, and they see it in their mind. Like, this is what is going to happen for me. I am going to play in a national championship. And so he has known that for a very long time. And what's interesting is that so many things that I read about those types of things, manifesting, law of attraction, whatever you want to call it, is that you don't worry about the how. Like, how is this going to happen? Getting stuck on all the details. So he understands that you can't say, "Hey, I want to play in a national championship," and then go sit and eat a sandwich. You have to put in the work, which he has most certainly done. But he was also open to the concept that, hey, things are not working out where I am here in Ohio, and I need to go somewhere else. So he said in an interview that I watched, I always thought I'd be here. I just didn't know. I think he said knew. I always knew I'd be here, but I just didn't think I'd be wearing this jersey. So he was willing to let that come and go. And the game started off really harsh. It was rough. We played Clemson, which is a phenomenal team, and they shut us down. I mean, their defense got all on us. They scored first, and we were rattled. But even though I could see, and I could sense, even though I was only watching the game with 2 other people, I could sense the LSU fans thinking, "Oh my God, we're going to lose this game." You could just tell that people thought that. I'm like, nah, they just got to figure it out. They just got to play the game a little bit. It's chess match, and find what's working, what's not working. And they came right back, and they did what they had to do. So I screamed a lot last night. If I sound a little hoarse, I screamed a good bit. So that is my blurb. It's almost 5 minutes. It is 5 minutes of me talking.
That's okay.
I'm just saying.
That's
so this is
positive.
exciting. I have lots to say because I am so excited about it. But David said before we started that he had an interesting comment. So he intrigued my interest or piqued my interest. So
well,
yes.
now I have a couple. I have some thoughts. You know, just some perspective. This is not me trying to be negative on positive conversations whatsoever. This is just perspectives, and I'm very happy for everybody who gets to experience the positivity. Because I remember, I've said before, I could not care less about football.
I normally don't.
And whenever you sent me that thing to post on the blog, I said, who is Joe
Burrow?
Yeah, which is just hilarious in hindsight. And but I do remember when I used to like football, and I know how excited I would be if I still was at that place in my life where I cared so much about football, because I used to be extremely into everything. I never took ESPN off my TV. But point is, I'm very happy for everybody, but there is this I have a pessimistic side, and now we've debated about this before, about how you always view things as no pessimistic side. You don't have negative thoughts in your brain, and if they're there, you push them away. But I've always viewed my thoughts as like, yeah, they're there, but I'm not going to focus on them. But I always have embraced the fact that, like, not embraced, but acknowledged the fact that I have a very pessimistic side. I get very irritable, impatient, angry, etc. And one of the big things that came up is I kept, especially like last night, like in the past few weeks, I kept hearing the name Joe Burrow that I got so over it. Just because I didn't care, and I was like, whatever, Joe Burrow. And it was at a point where this pessimistic part of my brain was just like, shut the hell up about Joe Burrow. I don't care. Like, everybody, I was over it, as I would say. I was over it. And so there was this pessimistic part of me that was like, if they lose, everyone would just shut the hell up about Joe Burrow. But of course, I don't actually. But then I said, like, I didn't like try to put out the thoughts like I hope they lose, because
you were just kind of considering the possibility.
I was considering the possibility, and truthfully, I didn't care to be like, I hope they lose. You know, I didn't watch the game. I did follow it on social media as it was happening, though, because my interest was piqued. So there's this interesting perspective I have of like, I could be, and this is even on the way over here, because even up until maybe this morning, I was still being this pessimistic way about it, of like, so sick of it, and I could care less, and I'm sick of hearing the name Joe Burrow. You know, I went, out of curiosity, I went and looked through some of his social media, and just from looking at that, I don't like him. Just from some of the things that he has posted, and not saying he's like posted like horrible things, but just like,
can you tell me what things?
Just sort of very particularly like cocky in your face kind of, which you acknowledged a second ago, a lot of people feel that way, and at first glance that's how I would feel too, but truthfully I don't know him, so I like that's a big part of me where at first I'm like, I want to sort of associate him with the jocks that I dealt with in high school, for example, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a very good chance that he is that way, but I don't know, and who cares? It doesn't matter anymore. I would be the one who's being still stuck in high school like that, right? So that's the part that I push away, and because like, who cares? And even this morning I was so pessimistic, sick of hearing about it. But even up to the point of on the way over here, I was like, I could choose to be over it and annoyed and impatient and get frustrated every time someone talks about it or gets excited, but what's the point in doing that? That doesn't help.
So that's
any person.
That's you acknowledging the negativity and saying, nah, I'm not going to feel like that.
That's me acknowledging the negativity and realizing that there's no reason to be negative. I mean, I think negativity, like in certain situations, the idea of like negative thoughts about a certain thing, like you can have negative thoughts about racism or something like that, right? That's where that energy should go, not negative thoughts about a football team or being negative, putting that kind of energy out there. Or, I mean, like, of course, part of me was kind of wanted to post on Snapchat, like, I'm so over Joe Burrow, but why would I do that? Who does that help? All that would do is make people who look at my social media, make them annoyed at me, and it helps nobody. So that's my little perspective. So good
you
job.
said you had several thoughts.
Oh yeah, I have more, but
What were some? Just I feel like some of what you had to say was in response to some of what I said.
it is, but not in like a back way. This is just something I want to throw out to you. Like, so, what about the Clemson quarterback who was manifesting winning the national championship last night?
Point.
What about that?
That's an outstanding point.
But and what about you say like I remember like maybe our last positive conversations, I joked with you about like, what if they lose? And you were like, well, I'm not going to put those thoughts in my brain and put that positivity out there. But in a way, from a Clemson fan's perspective,
right.
You're being negative.
Because I want them to lose.
Because you want, yeah.
I
wouldn't, you don't want Clemson to lose, you want LSU to win.
But in order for what I want to happen, the other has to happen.
Right. And I just think that's I don't think that you're like...
It's a valid point, because you've even said to me before, this whole idea of law of attraction is so interesting, because if I wanted to be married to like Beyonce or some famous celebrity who's already married, like if I really put my mind to it and worked hard for it. So
theoretically speaking, there are steps to do anything.
However, that argues the point, does every possibility exist? And so now we're getting into like existential stuff. I don't know if we're going to go that far.
In the multiverse,
right. So that makes you wonder then, is there some dimension where Clemson did win last night? And it's not my universe, because I wanted LSU to win. So in my perspective,
that's interesting.
But not the same.
Is there a
reality.
Universe where you're a Clemson fan?
That's what I'm saying. So actually,
I guess
you can get into all that. There's probably every possibility somewhere. But in the reality that I'm aware of at this moment, the interesting part about the other quarterback is that he had not lost in 29 games for almost over 2 years. So a really long time. And
what's his name? Do you know his name?
Yeah, I can't say it at this moment.
Trevor or something?
Yes.
Matthews?
No. Shoot, if you hadn't said it to me. Anyway, I heard his name over and over and over, but whatever his name is, I will come back to it at some point. It might spring into my mind. But the thing is, he is young. I think he's a sophomore in college, and he has just been amazing. I mean, if you watch him throw and run, and he's got command of the field, he's a whole lot, I think, like Joe Burrow in many ways. But he just had a hard time last night. I mean, LSU had not just Joe Burrow, and that's why LSU won, because Joe is amazing, and I think he would be amazing with any team, but he worked with the group that was at LSU as soon as he came, and they were just all really good last year, but then they worked together, and all together got really good this year. And I think part of what manifested their win last night was the shared vision, because Coach O, Joe, the O-line, like the whole team, they just, in their mind, the answers that they gave, or specifically Joe, because I listened to mostly Joe's interviews, is that we expected to be here. I mean, when he was interviewed about the Heisman, he's like, well, I expected to win. Now, in that particular case, you could certainly consider that cocky, but if he had looked at any of the polls, I mean, he won by the biggest margin of any Heisman winner ever. So that's not cockiness, in my opinion. But anyway, so I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that Trevor Lawrence's team didn't want to win. I just think that possibly LSU's kind of commitment to the idea of, we are this good. We know we're good. We see that we're this good. We are going to win every game. We expect to do that. And the other thing that I thought was very important, because I heard it over and over, is, okay, what about such and such? And what about the next game? What about the next 4 games? What about the national championship? And every answer from every player was, well, we just got to focus on the next one. Focus on the next one. So there are all these steps to what you want. And if you get ahead of yourself, it's easy to get derailed. But if you're like, okay,
marrying Beyonce,
right? But you have to have steps, though.
Yes,
you can't. Yeah, you can't just go from here to go to the church tomorrow. There are steps, and so they took one game at a time. And I don't know. I love what I saw in Joe Burrow, because it just mirrored so much of how I believe. I feel like his energy and positivity, even though, nobody's going to be positive all the time, but just hard work, heart. He just has all of it. And I think it just rubbed off on the other players who also had that, but I think he pulled it out more. I think he kind of set the example of, this is my vision. This is what I have wanted since I was 5 years old. And this is what I know I have to do to get it. And, you know, he called practices. They practiced beyond the coach's practice. He like, let's go, you know, throw the ball every Saturday and Sunday. You know, they just put in grueling hours. And yes, everybody who is a Tiger fan, Tiger Nation, Louisiana as a whole is thrilled, but they worked their butts off for it. You know, they really did. It's not like you can have what they just accomplished if you don't. And I think that's kind of a lesson to everybody. Like, I'll just kind of pull it to what we always talk about, which is our business. And I mean, I'll be honest with you, I've been very slack on that on my end, but you know, we know what we want with our podcast, and we have goals for where we want our YouTube stuff to go. But I have this other stuff that I would like to pursue, the affiliate stuff, just basically so we can get some money to do some of the other big things that we want to do with our business. And I have honestly not put in the hours. And you can always make excuses. You always can. So I will not make an excuse, but state, and you can take it as an excuse if you like, that what is keeping me from focusing on that at this moment is my other job paying, you know, my money paying job that I have. It's definitely pulling my energy to things that I have to do, or I won't feel like I've done that job to my ability. So on the other side of what I just said. Yeah,
and it'd be unfair to your students if you didn't do.
And if we're talking about manifesting in steps, like for me, I worked on the script for the play we're going to do in March over my Christmas break. So that's work I put in, and that was on top of the work that my student already put in to get the outline going for me and have some dialogue there, because that was a huge help. I don't know if I could have done it without that framework. But, and then I'm like, what are the props, what are the costumes, what are whatever, start organize.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the next 2 weeks are done and we start our rehearsal process, once again, from the beginning, if we all have in our head, hey, we're going to blow this off the stage, which is how I start every rehearsal process. You know, and yes, we've been going through some hard times with some rehearsal processes, but I always see it as this is going to be phenomenal. Not just, oh, that was cute, but this was so good. And I get that reaction from just about every play I have ever staged, you know?
Well, that's like what I've always said. We've always had different, we've always had like a same mindset, but slightly different in many ways about the whole thinking about things and manifesting. I've always seen it as a straight up, like, in my head, it's I always view it as this, and I think you do too, but maybe in this a slightly different way, but I always view it as like, whenever you constantly think and put out to the universe, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, it happens then because almost like a subconscious thing of
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, that's a good term for it. Of like, if you're not telling yourself that you're going to have great rehearsals, then you're not going to have great rehearsals. But if you're telling yourself you're going to have great rehearsals, it won't be magic that rehearsals are suddenly amazing and everyone knows the lines. It'll be you're telling yourself this, so then you're also learning your lines and you're doing everything you can. And you know, all that stuff you did over the break, that now it's done. And if it wasn't done then, it would have to be done now. And if it wasn't done now, it would have to be done tomorrow. Or
you get to the point where it just wouldn't get done.
Exactly.
Then that would hurt the production.
And then you have not done anything for the business or the production, because you're too busy scrambling for the production to focus anything else on a business, and it helps nobody. And you know, like we say, we always have a vision. I've had to be calmed down with this sort of thing lately. A lot of stress and anxiety about like when's it gonna, you know, what do we have to do, blah, blah, blah. And there's a great meme that my friend sent me. It's from The Incredibles, and it's when Mr. Incredible says, we'll get there when we get there. Because the kids kept asking, are we there yet? And I was like, yeah, it's a good point. We'll get there when we get there. And then we're there. Then it's done. Then we're there.
However, what you just said, then it's done. That would not be possible if we were not doing what we're doing now. And I do truly believe that I don't beat myself up when I don't do the things that I have in my head. I had the big long list of I want to do this, this, and that, and check this box off or whatever for the business over the break. And it just did not happen for many reasons. But I just look back at it and go, well, that's what I thought I needed to do. But I needed some time to relax. I needed to do, you know, like just the Christmas stuff, put Christmas back in the attic and all these things. So I didn't beat myself up. And I still don't. There are things I want to accomplish, and I think we will. And so maybe the list of what we want to accomplish that can lead us into our next podcast. We did not, by the way, continue from last week.
Sorry.
That's okay. Like, to discuss why we have the feelings we have. And I was going to try to come back to that, talking about you in high school. So maybe that can be a thought for next time. So like
interesting
your
point.
reaction to the things around you, viewing all athletes as cocky because of your experience, and you think about other people and why they come to the same experience with a different reaction. I think that's fascinating, and we can talk about that.
That is a very good point, and that is, it's almost frustrating because I'm like, let's do it now, but next
20 minutes.
20 minutes.
We
You're
got
right. We
this.
can talk about that next time.
Yes, we can.
What a great positive conversation we had.
Yeah, David said, he texted me when we were on our way home. Both of us were driving home, me from work and him from his house. And he's like, hey, I know you're so excited, so this is going to be a really positive conversation. So that set us up.
Yeah, I said we have to, it's like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, got to do it now.
We got to get it now.
Got to get it now.
When it's fresh, when the iron's hot.
Right, strike while the iron's hot. All right, so I guess I'll wrap this up and say thank you so much for listening to me gloat about my LSU Tigers. I just love it. I'm so proud to be from Louisiana. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Donna.
And David.
Stay positive.